Ever imagine yourself in a book-lined study, maybe perched on a worn leather chair? You can practically smell the old paper in the air, right? And you're surrounded by these eager minds, all here to discuss, well, the greats, the literary giants.
It's more than just a daydream, though.
Right, right, of course.
It's a
Yeah, yeah.
chance to really share your passion with others, watch it kind of blossom in them. And at the same time, you're contributing to this ongoing conversation, this dialogue about, well, the human experience.
You've definitely captured that romantic vision of a university literature lecturer, which it seems is a path you're curious about. We've got your RoleCatcher info here, and it definitely paints a picture of someone who's not just, a bookworm. This is about inspiring others. But when we get down to it, what does a university literature lecturer actually do all day?
It's honestly more multifaceted than people might think.
Really, more than just lecturing.
Oh, yeah. Teaching is definitely a huge part of it. But you're also doing research, publishing your own work, presenting at conferences, sometimes even getting the community involved. Literary events, workshops, things like that.
So it's not all like solitary study time then?
Not at all. I mean, you definitely need some quiet reflection, especially when you're analyzing texts, preparing lectures, but you're also collaborating with colleagues, mentoring students, and let's be honest, sometimes getting into some pretty lively debates.
You mentioning these discussions and where they take place is interesting. I think we all have this image of grand lecture halls, but what other settings come to mind?
Well, the university campus is definitely the main stage, but you could be in a small seminar room, a library, bustling with activity,
Oh, yeah.
or even online. Virtual discussions are becoming more and more common, and if we're talking research, well, that could take you beyond campus. Archives, museums, even conferences around the world.
Wow. So this role can really take you places. And I don't just mean geographically.
Exactly. And with things like, digital humanities, online learning, the whole landscape is changing. It's a really exciting time to be involved in teaching and research.
So it's not enough to just like love books. You need the qualifications to back it up.
Oh, absolutely. It's a competitive field, so those credentials are key. A doctorate in literature or something really close to it, that's usually the starting point, especially for those tenure track positions.
Right.
Like,
Tenure,
uh,
that almost mythical status in academia. And RoleCatcher definitely emphasized how important a doctorate is for those roles.
yeah, and for good reason. It shows you've not only immersed yourself in literature, but that you can do original research, contribute something new.
It's not just about like writing paper after paper though, right? What other skills do you need to really bring those literary insights to life in the classroom?
You're hitting on a really important point. Being a university literature lecturer, it takes more than just knowing your stuff. You need a whole range of skills.
Okay, like what?
Well, communication and presentation skills are huge. You got to engage those students. Critical thinking, too. Analyzing those texts, fostering discussions, and honestly, being adaptable. You'll have students with all different learning styles.
So you need to be a bit of a chameleon then, changing things up in the classroom.
Exactly. And we can't forget about technology. That's becoming more and more important in education. Today, you got to be comfortable using all sorts of digital tools and platforms in your teaching.
That makes sense. We're in a digital age. What kind of technology are we talking about specifically?
Oh, it's a wide range. There are digital annotation platforms so students can, do close readings together. Virtual reality experiences to really transport them to different literary settings. Even online forums for debates and discussions outside of class.
Wow, it sounds like tech can really make literature come alive.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher actually highlighted some really specific skills that are super valuable in this profession, skills that blend that traditional scholarship with, like you said, being tech savvy.
Yeah, they mentioned learning strategies and reading comprehension. I mean, those seem kind of obvious when we're talking about literature, but tell me more about how those translate to a university setting.
Right, well, reading comprehension at this level, it's not just about understanding the words. It's about deep analysis, interpretation, making connections between different texts. A university literature lecturer needs to help students really develop those skills.
Help them become critical thinkers, not just passive readers.
Exactly. And learning strategies, that comes into play when you're designing your courses, figuring out how to engage your students. Are you using active learning techniques, peer-to-peer learning, maybe even those adaptive learning platforms that cater to different learning styles?
Right, right. It's about finding what works. So we've talked about the qualifications, the skills, but what about someone who's just starting out, maybe still working on their doctorate? What can they do to get some real experience and, stand out?
Well, even while you're studying, it's important to, seek out opportunities, build that experience. Teaching assistantships, for example, they're amazing.
Oh, yeah, those are great. You're kind of thrown into the classroom trenches, right? It's not just about your own studies anymore. You're guiding discussions, giving feedback on essays.
Right.
It's a real taste of like what it's like to be on the other side of the lectern.
Yeah, you get to hone those teaching skills, see how different approaches actually work in a real classroom. It's invaluable.
And I imagine you connect with students differently too, you know? You start to understand their perspectives, the challenges they face.
Absolutely. And there's so many opportunities outside of the classroom, too. You can volunteer at literary festivals, lead workshops at libraries,
Oh, right.
even get involved with writing groups in the community. All these things show your passion, your commitment to sharing literature.
It's like building a portfolio, but not just of your work, a portfolio of experiences.
Exactly. It shows potential employers that you're not just stuck in the ivory tower,
Yeah.
You're out there, engaged with the wider world of literature.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's say you've put in the work, you've got your doctorate, you've honed those skills, you even land an interview for that dream lecturer position. What then? Any advice for navigating that conversation?
Well, RoleCatcher had some great examples of the kind of questions you might be asked. And they really go beyond the usual, why do you want to teach literature stuff?
They get into the nitty-gritty. I was really interested in how much they emphasized technology.
Yeah, that's huge now. Be ready to talk about how you'd use technology in your teaching, whether it's online platforms for discussions or bringing multimedia into your lectures.
You've got to show you're tech savvy, not just an expert in like literary theory.
Right. Another big one is how you'd balance everything. The teaching, the research, the administrative stuff.
Oh, that balancing act, that's academia in a nutshell.
It really is. You need to show you're organized, you can manage your time.
And with a field as dynamic as literature, there's always something new to learn, something else to explore.
Exactly. And the good news is, RoleCatcher has some fantastic resources to help you prep for all of this. They've got their CV and resume builder, even an AI platform to practice interviews.
It's like having a personal career coach.
Totally. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of university literature lecturers, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Ooh, I love a good thought-provoking question.
So, with everything changing online learning, student populations becoming more and more diverse, the whole landscape of higher education shifting, what new challenges and opportunities do you think university literature lecturers will face? What skills, what approaches will be key to thriving in this new environment?
Those are definitely questions worth pondering. Technology is changing how we learn, how we connect. The role of a university literature lecturer is bound to change too. But one thing's for sure, the power of literature to inspire, to challenge, to connect us, that's never going away. So if you're ready for a career that's intellectually stimulating, if you're passionate about storytelling, well, academia is waiting. Until next time, happy reading.